Hi everyone, Kelly here. I just got a really great question from a student who wanted to ask about in-text citations. They had just gone through composition, another course, and still didn't quite grasp kind of how and when to use in-text citations. And I wanted to put a spotlight on that today with this video, shed a little bit of light on it, and also share one of my favorite best practices for doing citations and for writing essays. So what I've pulled up for all of you is my screen. You should see my Google on one page, and I'm going to do the negatives of social media on mental health today. And then you should also see my APA cover page on the other side of the screen. Now, what I like to do is kind of set my essay up like a worksheet, and I always like to have my research going on the same screen as my paper. Now, that's one way that I like to work. Other students like multiple screens. A lot of students also still like hard copy sources, hard copy notebook. It's totally up to you how you want to work. But what I like to do is kind of manage each source as I go, and then I'm able to kind of put that source away permanently and not think about it anymore. So if I'm thinking about some of the key elements of an essay, I should have a good thesis statement following my formula for thesis statements. And that's going to be topic XYZ is important because of A, B, and C. And so I'm going to say social media has a negative effect on mental health because it fractures relationships, presents an unreasonable standard, and can be addictive. Okay, so I see that I had a little typo. I'm going to go ahead and clean that up. What I have here are three main points. And so I'm going to use my main points as headers. And I know that this is a video about citations here, folks, but I cannot resist an opportunity to talk about thesis statements and organization. And addictive. So what I've done here, and this is why I love APA so much, I've had some really great conversations with some of you this week and last week about why we can be using APA and how it's effective for everyone's majors, is when I have a good three-part thesis statement, and my wording could be better, but I don't care. I'm not going to worry about wording in draft number one. When I have a good three-part thesis statement, those three parts connect with my headers, and then my paper ends up being more like a worksheet than an essay because I just need to go in and fill in each section. So that brings us to citations here and to how I'm going to use my research. Now, I might use a variety of tools to get my research. I might use the school's library. I might use a basic Google search. I actually prefer to use Google Scholar for myself, but I'll use a variety here. And let's look at this article. Is social media bad for your mental health? It's from mga.edu. I've been told that .edus and .orgs and .govs are better than .coms. I'll take a look. I don't know if she's the author. It says the author is the News Bureau. But there's an author, Dr. Kim Johnson. Okay. And she's got some citations here at the bottom. So it doesn't have an author at the top, but I've got this picture of Dr. Johnson. I've got this bio here that says she wrote this article. I'm showing that it's from a university and that it was published recently. So I'm feeling like this is probably going to be a pretty good source. Now what I want to do is I want to look through my source and see if I can find information that I'm going to incorporate into my essay. Now, you might have content that you write independently on your own, but when we use sources both as inspiration and as the source of facts, we always need to add in-text citations. So I want us playing the game for academic level writing, and that means a lot of in-text citations. And so let's say that I see this sentence right here. Social media use, just as the use of alcohol or drugs, can hijack the dopaminergic pathways more quickly and reliably than naturally derived rewards such as studying hard and getting a good grade. So let's say that I'm looking at that and I'm saying that sentence is fantastic. And actually, she did cite her source right here. It's from Kumar 2020. We wanted to follow the thread all the way back to the original. But let's say that I'm like, okay, that is important and that goes under addictive because we're talking about dopamine. We're talking about how social media impacts dopamine. Instead of using a quote, I want to put this in my own words because outside of English, we don't do a lot of quoting. We do a lot of paraphrasing. And the idea is that when you're paraphrasing content, you're signaling to your reader that you understood what was said well enough to put it into your own words. So I'm going to put this sentence in my own words and say, just like drugs and alcohol, social media can be addictive in that it can be used to quickly derive reward like dopamine. Study. I don't love my wording here, but I'm not going to worry about it. What I'm going to worry about next is that once I've taken this sentence of inspiration here, and some might say this is common general knowledge. I would say that it's not, especially since I brought up the impact of dopamine. Once I've found information from a source where I was like, oh, that's interesting, that's going to fit in my paper, then I'm going to cite it. And this is Johnson, and this is 2022. And then I'm also going to cite her article on my references page. So I'm going to have references page at the end. Since it's APA, it's going to say references. If it were MLA, it would say works cited. And I am going to Johnson Kim. Put her last name. I'm going to put her first initial. I am not going to include the fact that she is a doctor. That would be unnecessary. I'm going to put in the title, capitalizing only the first word of the title or other keywords or subtitle if they had one, but I don't, so I won't. And I have a lot of this stuff memorized here, folks, and I know that you might not. I'm going to show you in a second my little quick reference guide that I like to use to cite my sources. And this comes from Middle Georgia State University. I guess we could put news. And then I'm going to add my URL. I'm going to italicize my news source. And last but not least, I need to add a hanging indent. So I'm going to highlight my source. I'm going to open up my paragraph menu. And I'm going to make sure that my spacing is at 0, 0, and double all the time. And here where it says special, I'm going to select hanging. And if you're using Google Docs, then you're going to open up the edit indentation options menu, and you'll have that same option to select special hanging. And then every line after the first line becomes indented. So that's going to be the key to the format. So if you write it, folks, you must cite it. All information that's not common general knowledge needs to have a citation. That citation is ideally at the end of a paraphrased sentence like this one. And that's going to be the most part of essays. Now, you are going to add a topic sentence, social media, in addition to fracturing and unreasonable standards, social media is proven to be addictive. A topic sentence is just going to say, hey, this is what we've talked about. This is what we're going to talk about. It's what the paragraph is about. That's not going to have an in-text citation. Then you're going to have like 3 sentences after that with facts and citations, facts and citations, facts and citations. And then you're going to end the citation in a summary. So you're going to say, clearly, the impact of heightened screen times, dopamine, and our ever increasing reliance on social media has proven to be both addictive and dangerous. So this is kind of what a body paragraph is going to look like, except I'm going to have maybe 2 or 3 of these sections in the middle that have paraphrase information and then in-text citation. So a good college essay paragraph is usually topic sentence, paraphrase, cite, paraphrase, cite, paraphrase, cite, summary, and transition. And so if you're asking yourself, when do I need citations? The answer is pretty much always. Even if it's something that you've known for a really long time, still need a citation at the end of it. Even if it's something you learn in a class last semester from another teacher, if it's a fact and it's not common knowledge, and think that common knowledge is not that common. People are not that intelligent, I hate to say it, but pretty much all facts need citations. And if it's inspired by a source, it has to have a citation. So me, personally, Kelly, when I'm writing an essay, I'm going to put my essay, I'm going to make like a worksheet for myself on one side of the screen like this. I'm going to have my Google, I'll probably have like 8 tabs running here at the top, including the OWL Purdue website, so I can double check my citation work. I'll have that going on the left side of the screen. And as I bring facts into my essay, I make sure that I add citations at the end. And now that I've done one, it's easy. I did Johnson 2022. I can copy that. And let's say that I find something else. Let's see, this is actually a really interesting statistic. So maybe my opener is as many as 82% of Americans over 30 years. Under 30 years. Under age 30 use social media. So I took this sentence right here, even though they cited the Pew Research Center, I'm going to cite where I got it from, which was Johnson, and now I have another citation. Once I do one from that author, then I can just copy it, and then every other time that I use a piece of information from that article, I throw that at the end. I just paste it, paste it, paste it until I get to the end of the article. When I'm done with the article, I've done all of my citation work. I'll probably never come back to it ever again. I can't recommend that enough, folks. I always talk to students, they say, oh, I do that all at the end. I do all the citations at the end. What a waste of time and energy. If you've got the source right there, cite it, use it, and move on. So I hope that this was not too long of a video. Let me get to the main points here. Let me just kind of recap everything in a nutshell. Number one, if you write it, you must cite it. That's all facts that are not common general knowledge, which is pretty much everything. Uh, I like to joke, right? Everybody knows that the earth is flat, but that's not true. There's a bunch of people, everybody knows the earth is round, but that's not true. There's a bunch of people who think the earth is flat. So, uh, not sometimes we take knowledge for granted, but that doesn't mean that it's common knowledge. The next thing that we're going to remember is that in text citations are required for all sentences of fact. They use paraphrase instead of quotes whenever possible. And folks, only use a quote if you couldn't say it any better in your own words. And so that quote has to be by maybe like a famous person or something just absolutely over the top incredible. So you want to basically cite everything except for your topic sentences and summary sentences. You want to use them often, and hopefully they'll just be the in-text citations buried at the end of the sentences. I hope that this helps you to get a better idea of kind of setting up that beginning in APA. But of course, most importantly, I hope that it helps you get a better idea of when and where we cite. Now, I have a couple extra resources that I'm making sure to link you to here. The first, and these are under the APA MLA, if we use the Purdue OWL website, and I'll give you the link to this as well as the sample paper, they've got lots and lots of examples of, say, in-text citations, references list book, references list electronic sources. This website is kind of the end-all be-all guide to APA 7th edition outside of actually buying the APA 7th edition. So I recommend using this to see examples, and it's what I use. There's also the APA 7th edition sample paper. So you can go through and you can see they've got little annotations that are addressing different elements of the sample paper. And you can also go in here and see more examples of in-text citation, of how to do a quote, and then say all the way at the end. And yes, this paper is quite lengthy. There are lots and lots of examples. And my computer is frozen. But what you would see at the end, once this starts moving here, is a full references page with a whole bunch of references. And that's something that is kind of a goal for us. So these are, as I said, some things to think about. I hope that they're very helpful. Please let me know. Send me an email, drop me a line, schedule a Zoom. I'm hoping that this resource is helpful and that it helps to shed a little bit of extra light on citations and in-text citing.